Hi, I'm Corey.
Hi, I'm Tess.
Welcome to A Lovely Place.
We're so glad you've joined us as we invite Jesus into the midst of our lives, learning, and laughter.
We hope this podcast can encourage your heart and make you smile today.
Hello, friends. We are here today making another podcast, and I'm excited to get to chat with my friend Corey and get to chat with, we won't chat with you, but maybe you can hear from us and hear our hearts and be blessed. So last time on our intro, you got to know me a little bit, but we didn't get to hear a lot about Corey and her life. And so
she was nervous.
So I thought today we could start with that, hear a little bit more about you, Corey. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, and some of it might be repeat because I can't remember exactly what I said, but I got married when I was 30 and Stefan proposed to me in a song. That's one of my favorite things.
Aww.
Came to my work and sang to me, and I was so nervous. And then let's see, 3 years later, we were starting to try to have babies. We lost one baby. So there, I think he's in heaven. And then
Yes.
Riker was born 2016, little bundle of joy. And then now he's 5.5. He wanted me to make sure that he knew that, or you knew that, whatever. He wanted you to know that he's Riker.
Yes.
He likes to play Legos. I make a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And I went on mission trips before. I like traveling. Been to a few countries. One time I was doing one of those maps where you fill out how many places you've been. And I was like, oh, this is going to look like I colored the whole world. And it's like, it's teeny tiny percent. But it was still, makes me still feel like I've traveled different places. So I like that. Yeah.
And so then, what kind of things do you enjoy doing in your day?
Well, obviously making a podcast. I like to do sewing and quilting when I have time. And then I like to read books, journal, that kind of stuff. I spend way too much time scrolling on my phone. Lately, I've been into TikTok, and my husband laughs at me. He's like, what are you watching? I'm like, I don't know. He gets lost on Reddit, so I can get lost on reels and things. Yeah. So, and then, I wanted to tell you this, Tess. I was watching 90210 reruns, and guess who was in it? Pepper Sweeney.
What? Pepper Sweeney, our good friend.
Yes, I was like, I had to tell her this. And then I was trying to find which character he was, but I'm not really sure. I think it was one of the frat boys, but it was just funny.
That's awesome.
There's our friend from...
and podcaster.
Yes. Here we go.
Yes. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's cool. So any more you want to share? Any more you want?
I'm going to keep it more of a mystery. So I guess I went to beauty school. I do hair. I'm part-time. That's been rebuilding my business here since we moved to Spokane. Maybe that's information I should share. Moving from Battleground all the way over to Spokane. So that's why we are on a Zoom call, you and I.
Yes.
Let's hit the microphone.
Yes.
Gesturing that you can't see. I'm making Tess laugh. So I like Spokane. It's really cold today, very windy. So that's an adjustment. Like, not that I thought it was that much of a difference, but just enough. So Spokane's my address now, and we live close to my parents, and Stefan's parents are across the ocean. Hi, Glenna and Warren.
Oh, I miss you, friend. I'm glad that we get to do this podcast together because it helps that like hurt not to be as hurty.
Yes, I agree. It's good. I was looking forward. To
connect.
Yes.
And have the same types of conversations that we did when you lived here, which is fun. So
yeah, with a cup of coffee instead of a microphone in our face, but that's okay. It's all good. Yes. Somehow you froze, but I think you're okay.
Oops. Okay. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about today, this kind of leads into one of the stories in the book, and it reminds me of you because you're in my story, is a time that you helped me when, like, in a vulnerable moment in my life. So that's kind of how this book that we're starting on opens, is with the story of a friend. And the story that came to mind as we were thinking of what we wanted to talk about was, I've been in the process of decluttering my house, and partially because of you inspired me. And one day I was trying to go through my closet, which was just like a wreck.
I remember.
And I like reached out for help because I was like, I can't do this by myself. And I remember that you came over, and I just think, like, there's not many friends that would necessarily want to do that, or that I would feel comfortable having in my closet, you know?
Yeah.
And
all your stuff.
You came and we're just like compassionate about it, but also like, hey, this will help you if we get this done and we get this cleaned out. And you came in and helped me work through that, and I'm better for it. And so I appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate having a friend that can, like, step into those vulnerable moments with me.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, we Marie Kondoed your closet that day, piled it up high.
Right? We did. It was great.
I think we took a trunk load in my car, and that was gone that day. It was a big deal.
Yep.
Yeah, you did a good job.
Mm-hmm. I feel better for it.
Good.
So,
I'm glad I could be there with you. I actually thought of, well, okay, that didn't sound quite right, did it? But I'm glad I could be there, because that was a lot of hard work in my own closet. It would have been more fun with somebody helping me. So I'm glad we got to share that.
Yes, it was good. So what about you? What was your moment you were thinking about?
Well, I was just remembering, I was like, the first thing that came to my head was after I had Riker, everything went different than I planned. I thought I was going to have a water birth at home. Didn't. I had a C-section at the hospital. So kind of one extreme to the other. And I was kind of a mess after that. And then I guess she was a doula that I was working with, helping breastfeeding. And she was like, you need support. Like, you need people. Like, she kind of called me out, and she kind of freaked my mom out. Like, I don't know if she's okay or whatever. So I remember being on the phone with Evie Kent, and she was just so kind. And one of the things she said to me was, God picked you to be his mama, and you have all that you need to do that. And I just remember thinking, like, what am I doing? For those of you that have brought home a baby, it's like, kind of like, wait a minute. What? I don't have a degree in this.
Right.
So that was one of the first things that came to my head. And then I'm just realizing now that I didn't meet you until that next year, I think, because he was already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was like 18 months when we met or something.
Yeah. So, and then there's lots of times I could share with you in our journeys. Last time in our intro podcast, I was talking about the pearls and ponytail things, and that came with what will come with our book, also Decide Once. But it was COVID. Remember that time? And we were jumping in on a video Zoom calls doing Bible studies. So this feels like, oh yes, here's my friend, and we're going to go deep, and we're going to figure stuff out, and it's going to be okay. So just this moment, reliving this with headphones and a microphone makes me think of those Zoom calls and Bible studies, digging in, finding Jesus.
The deep work.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you, friend.
Well, thank you for sharing. So one way we'd love to have people get to know us a little better is just to talk about why did we choose like a lovely place, but like, what does it look like when we are with Jesus and it's lovely. Like what does it look like to spend time with Jesus for each of us? So, what do you think about you? What does a lovely place with Jesus look like for you?
Well, my first thought is like I'm quiet and I'm listening, but
Yeah.
it's not always quiet and I'm not always listening. But I'm like, okay, wait a minute. How does this work? Jesus is with me all the time. And so trying to include him or be in with him. There's like those abide and the dwell and the strong tower and all these different visual pieces that kept coming to mind as we've been talking about our lovely place and like, okay, what does that mean? Or like the word picture in Psalm of like by the river and the tree. So then it's like, okay, well, I don't have a tree in my house, but I'm here in my house. So I guess trying to figure out those word pictures and then how it applies to when I'm making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for the 10th time or folding another load of laundry, like that could be a lovely place with Jesus. So
Yes.
it's like, I feel like it's moments to say, hey, take a breath.
Yes.
How about you, Tess?
Well, I think that when I get the time, when I take the time to spend quiet time with Jesus, I have a chair that I like to use, or sometimes it ends up being in the shower because when you have kids, you know, like it's few and far between when there's actually quiet. But so when I have the time to spend quiet time with Jesus, I like what you said about those other moments of like making a sandwich or doing the laundry, because it's once I've had that quiet time that I can approach those other moments in my day with an attitude of gratitude. That rhymes there. But you know, like when I can look at those little moments and look at my kids in the tiny, like normal things that sometimes seem monotonous, to say like, wow, like I'm so thankful for this moment and I see Jesus in the small things around me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's when I'm like hurried and busy that that doesn't quite happen. And so I think every moment, every like thing that we experience can be lovely with Jesus if we give him the permission to kind of enter our space and to dwell in our hearts. So
Yeah.
that's what I want to do every day. But, you know, sometimes that doesn't happen the way I want it to.
Well, and then right now it's Christmas season here, 2021, right? So
Yes.
that Emmanuel and that song, we can link it or whatever you do with cool podcast people. But it was talking about, wow, we need Emmanuel. And I just was like, in that a lovely place, he is with us. Wherever we are, he's with us. So that is like amazing to wrap my mind around that, to be like, oh, Jesus is with us. He's with us right here. And he can be with you right now also. You listener, you and you, Tess.
Yes.
All the you. Hey, that because we're sheep, right?
Yeah.
Use.
It's true. Oh my goodness. Well, so we've decided on our first book. We've started on it. So I want us to talk a little bit about why we wanted to read this book. And so
Did we even say the name yet?
Well, I'm going
Oh,
to.
oh, sorry. I'm getting so excited. Sorry. I'm listening.
Just move with the anticipation, you know? So Daniel and I just finished this class with our church called Emotionally Healthy Relationships. And one of the things, and I know you've taken this course as well, Corey, and one of the things that we talked about in the very last chapter is developing or making a rule of life. And that by rule, it doesn't, you know, like people are often intimidated by rules or whatever, but that like the original word from that comes from the same word for trellis, like that is used to support a plant and to help it grow better and healthier. And one of the things that we talked about in our last group meeting was that we get the opportunity, we are the ones who get to choose how we want to build our lives. And that that it really is like a brick by brick process. It's not something like, just slap 4 walls together and that's your house. Like, that we get to build our lives, and it's an intentional process. And so with that, when we were looking at books that we wanted to start reading, we looked at Kendra Adachi's The Lazy Genius Way. And that one stood out to me because she has this, the front says, embrace what matters, ditch what doesn't, and get stuff done. And I think that it stood out to me because there's this premise that God put in us what we should be caring about and what we should value. And it might be different than other people, but we get to choose what bricks we add into our lives and how we are intentional to build our lives. And so that was why it stood out to me and why I felt like it was a good place to start, because I think God is asking me to be more intentional with the things that I build my life with. And so I'm excited to jump into it with you. And I'd love to hear like what stood out to you, because you've read this book before me, before we started this. What caused you to want to read that book?
Well, I kept hearing about it, I believe, on our famous and favorite Don't Mom Alone podcast. Kendra was one of her guests on that show, and I think that's where I learned about the book. And then another one of my other YouTube friends, you can call people on YouTube friends, right? Dawn, the minimal mom, she was talking about it also. And so I just I have to read this book because I really like what Kendra was saying. And I like that she shared her story and it came from some pain and some different things and talked about her Enneagram. And I'm like, well, she just sounds cool. I need to learn more. So then I liked that she wasn't being... she wasn't trying to do everything, but she was trying to be intentional about what she was doing. And I needed to know, how do I do that? Because I'm trying to figure out, how do you do that?
Right.
So I like that her book is a bunch of different questions to ask yourself. So it's not like you need to do A, B, and C, and D to get to where you're going. It's not a one formula fits all. It's questions to ask yourself, what matters to me, and how can I do what matters to me and not do the things that don't matter, and giving permission to choose that and to not get stuck. So I was like, I like this book. So I've talked to you a lot about it. So it's exciting that we're like, oh yeah, let's do that one for our cool first book.
Yes, it's exciting. I'm glad that you recommended it because I think it's going to be really good. So the way that Kendra lays out her book is in principles. So each little chapter, if you will, is a principle that she talks about. And so I'd love to hear from you, what is one principle that impacted you, in this last week or this last season, and why?
And why? I know I keep mentioning it, but it's just on my heart. I really like this decide once. Just decide once, and then that's what you do. So in the pandemic COVID time, it was okay, we're in our pajamas most of the time and whatever. So then I decided once that my outfit was going to be pearls and ponytails. So I would just put a ponytail up and wear pearls. Whether I had makeup on or not, I felt like I decided once and I was dressed. And that just has carried with me throughout this last 2.5 years or whatever. And it just has been one simple decision. And every time I go to my jewelry box, I don't get worried about what other earrings to wear or whatever's happening. And I can just pick out that and I'm done. And then it's a special day if I wear something different beside pearls instead of pearls being the special. So that's what that makes me think of first, just that it's freeing, that it made just getting dressed easier.
Yeah.
And just oh, I don't have to think about 20 decisions. I've already cut that out. How about you?
Well, so kind of going back to what I had talked about with the building brick by brick, one of the principles is start small. And I think that was one that kind of that stood out to me, because I think I struggle sometimes with caring about all the things. Like, I'll hear about this thing that is, like an issue or this or whatever. And like, there's so many things that I'm like, well, that's so important, And then I get to the point, like you said, where you get stuck, because it's like, well, what decisions do I make? Like, what do I do? And, but there are a few key areas that I can identify in my life where I'm like, that is a priority for me. And I know that it is. And the whole idea of starting small. So just like knowing that one small thing makes progress, that movement, like Kendra says in the book, movement is more important than the, like reaching the goal or the goal line, that just moving is important. And so, one thing that I've been doing this week so we just found out that my son has psoriasis, and we're trying to like digest, that's a funny word to use here. Anyway, we're trying to come to terms with the idea that we might have to change a lot of our diet and the things that we eat. And that sounds daunting to me, but it's important that my son, that we do the best we can for him, and that, he might not care so much about the flare-ups, but I think in the future it would be good for him to have some better ways of eating. And so that's something that we've been talking about, but it sounds so like monumental, like, oh my gosh, we might have to change like everything that we eat. And then I get stuck. I was like, I even put off grocery shopping all week this week, because I was just like, I don't even know, like bread. We eat bread all the time. Like, how are we supposed to not eat bread? And my husband, oh, bless his heart, and Kendra Adachi helping me by saying, just start small, like just one thing, substitute one thing for, so we're exploring different options for like tortillas to use that are gluten-free, because maybe that would be a way that we can help with his psoriasis, so just starting small. I really love that. Starting small, just pick one thing that you can do, one little thing that will get the momentum going and keep you moving, instead of just being stuck and not knowing what decision to make. So that principle has really stood out to me as something I'd like to take to heart and put into practice. So we always in our podcast would like to bring things back to Jesus. What is this? How is Jesus teaching us through these books? How is he impacting our hearts? What's going on there? So what do you think for yourself or for our listeners? Like, what do you think we can use this book to, to teach us about our faith journey and how we're walking with Jesus?
Well, I've just been challenged the last couple years to just be still and not so frantic. And so I feel like the lazy genius principles have really helped me along with Jesus. Like, okay, he doesn't want me to be running around in circles or getting stressed out about things that don't really matter. And so it's like, okay, what does really matter? Oh, my relationship with Jesus. Oh, my family. Okay, my friendships. And then it's like, then if I have those core things happening, then it's like I can use these principles to decide things, figure out what matters, start small. It's just like, okay, I need to do the dishes so I can cook dinner. That's a good thing, to serve my family and take care of this body that God gave me. And it was just like, even a counseling appointment I had one time was talking about, do your dishes so you can make dinner. Like, it was like, and stop and take a deep breath. Like, so yes. I feel like Jesus is inviting me again and again to his peace and his calm. Yeah. And so that's like, I just keep checking in with him and be like, okay, you're what matters to me, Lord. And take that deep breath and calm myself, because then I can think and respond properly instead of just fast forwarding through 5 decisions that I probably wouldn't make correctly if I didn't take that deep breath and pause and stop.
Yes. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think that for me, this book is helping me because I felt like I've kind of been in this season, I've in the last few months have become exclusively a stay-at-home mom, and it's been a weird transition for me, and I feel like I've been asking God, like, well, what is my purpose right now? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? Because I think my mind always wants to go to like, I got to help all these people, and I have to remember that's the way God made me, but like, what is he directing me in right now? And the fourth principle that Kendra talks about is living in the season. And I think that's been helping me to remember, like, do the next best thing, the next right step, the next small step in this season, but not to be wishing that I was doing something else, and to know that the season I'm in is important and that seasons change. I think that was a big thing too, that it's to be grateful for the little things that I have right now, those little moments, because seasons will change, and I'll look back and maybe hope that I could have them again, even though in the moment sometimes it seems like, I don't know about this, So I'm excited to dive into this book more with you, and just to learn more about what Jesus has to say to each of us. I think it's going to be good, and I'm already having fun with this podcast. So
yes, me too, and
you are too.
Yes, it's a lot less nerve-wracking than last time with our husbands both staring at us at the table. If you haven't seen that picture, it's on Facebook.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So, well, listeners, thank you for listening. Corey, thank you for having this conversation with me. And I'm just praying that something like stands out to someone as their next right step with Jesus, whatever that might be. And we are going to have all the information you need to know in our show notes as we get the hang of this whole podcast thing. And I don't know, what do you have to say, Corey? Any parting thoughts?
Just excited to keep sharing what we're learning, because that's our lovely place, right? Learning in life, or life, learning, and laughter. So hopefully we made you laugh today, and maybe even learn something. I don't know. So maybe we'll continue learning. That's what I'm saying. Let's keep learning. Let's keep learning, friend.
Okay, that sounds good.
We can look back on episode 1 and be like, oh, we didn't know what we were doing.
Right? There we
or
go.
maybe I don't know what. Anyways, thank you.
Learning. Bye.
Bye, friends. Bye, friend.